Speech of petty point scoring from the opposition member, absolutely missing the big picture and the great reforms this government has taken forward for workers and employers alike over the last several years. And talk about the language we're hearing from Labor people at the moment, talking about not giving a damn or a toss. Wasn't as bad as David Shearer, who swore on national radio this morning, Mr Chair. My delicate ears couldn't take the kind of language we are getting from these members, clearly showing the stress that they are under. But Mr Chair, this is a government in this area that is doing a whole lot of good and has a very proud record. Let's go through some of the things that we've just heard from Andrew Little about the minimum wage order. Well, yes, because actually if we hadn't done that, we would have been casualising and condemning the workers he says he cares about. And we were returning things to the status quo and making sure that workers on farms got the fair go that he says he cares about. And I say petty point scoring because the press releases we've seen on actually some really good things this government has done for workers have been that from them and from the CTU. Very disappointing indeed to see that kind of attitude. And we've seen a lift in Labour inspectors through the budget, so it's hard again to know why Andrew Little is saying the kind of things he is saying. We've seen minimum employment standards, a discussion document gone out where we are seeking to significantly lift things so that there are criminal penalties where there is exploitation of workers and so on. What did we see from Labour and the unions? Petty point scoring. They couldn't focus on the absolute good, despite the fact, I might say, the CTU came into my office with the EMA calling for the very changes I then made. They went on national radio and criticised me. Well, I say that's petty. And it would be great to see actually the Labour Party stand up for some good reforms that this government is doing that if they were honest with themselves they would support. We look at the Employment Relations Amendment Bill and the changes that this government wants to make that's gone through Select Committee there, moderate changes, and yet all we get is the scaremongering from this say. 90-day trial periods we hear about. Well, what we didn't hear Andrew Little say was that a third of employers, small business owners in this country, that's what this country is made up of, a third of them said they took on people, they gave people a go they wouldn't have otherwise. That's real change and that's real difference. People who wouldn't have got a job, a third of employers gave them one, and I say that's pro-employers and it's pro-workers. And frankly, it's very disappointing to see the sort of left-wing attitude we get from the Labour Party and the Green Party, oppose, rather than being constructive on these issues. And again, they can't quite bring themselves, try to find any angle on the health and safety reform to criticise it. Well, it's not tripartite, and it's not this. Well, it is, and I differ on that matter from Andrew Little, but let's all agree with this. This is the biggest health and safety reform this country has seen in at least 20 years. Significantly more funding into a well-resourced regulator, significant law changes coming. And you know, if I was to be cruel to the Darian Fentons and the Andrew Littles, serious reform from this government when actually over 9 years of Labour, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And so I think we actually need to, on some of these issues, face the facts on that. And to Mr Little, I say, well, you care about workers, Mr Little. What does he say to the 7,000 oil and gas workers in Taranaki with a party that flip-flops on issues without a skerrick of evidence like the Maui's Dolphins? Now, we expect to see over there from the Green Party scaremongering on that. But to his credit, David Cunliffe finally got to the position, the right position, that there has not been a single Maui's dolphin harm from oil and gas over the 40 years that has been going on in Taranaki. And we've seen protests, we've seen calls for me to be sacked from Labour candidates. David Cunliffe, to his credit, finally got to the right position. Well, I wonder if Tamati Kofi's going to be calling for him to be sacked, Mr Speaker. but we care about workers in this party. We've done really good reform. It's just a shame that Labor and the Greens can't bring themselves to support them.
Chair.
I call Denise Roach.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I rise to take a call on the vote Labor appropriations, and it's kind of appropriate that I do that today, given